Isn't it crazy how like therapeutic like nature is? Like whether you're just like on the porch or you're outside, like literally just sitting, being around, looking at trees, hearing the birds, like it just instantly puts you in a better like mental state or mood or whatever. If you haven't done it in a while, go try it. Hey guys, it's me, Kelsey. Today I just wanted to talk about something that I actually think about a lot, which is the reason that I don't care what people think of me. Which I'm not saying I never do, but there's a certain story that I am able to remind myself, and it just instantly, it makes me stop caring. And to an extent, we all care, we all have those days. It wouldn't be human if none of us ever experienced worrying about what people thought or been insecure about what people thought, but I wanted to share my story with you. So, if you've been watching my channel, you might know I was in a very serious car crash about 3 years ago. And if you're new here, hi, I'm Kelsey, and I was in a very serious car crash 3 years ago. My crash happened early that morning, and I had to go to the hospital. I remember that day at the hospital, I was telling like all the staff, my head hurts. I was constantly holding the back of my head, and everyone just kind of kept dismissing me and telling me, oh, it was fine, and that I just had like a concussion. And while that was going on, I also had a neck brace, and my neck brace was really getting to me, just like irritating me. And so I had asked one of the nurses, I was like, can we take this off of me now? Like, it's been a few hours. And she went to go do it, but while doing it, she pressed her entire hand with force on the place that I specifically said hurt. I'm not saying this was intentional, but it was a little bit careless. I was not able to lift up my head to like help her get the brace off. So she pushed up my head and she like took the neck brace off. But it's honestly, like I hate saying that it's traumatic, but like in my lifespan, I have never ever screamed out in pain, but I did that time because it really hurt, which, to fill you in, this was actually finally after that I told a different nurse, and I was like, look, like there's blood on my hand, like something's happening back there. And they were like, oh, you need like 3 staples in your head. And I was like, oh, like who would have thought? Anyways, didn't really enjoy my time at the hospital, but back to my story. With that nurse, after that happened and I screamed, I told her, I was like, you didn't have to be so aggressive. Like she was not careful, she was not gentle. I feel like there was a way to assist me in lifting my neck off the bed without like forcibly pushing my head off. But I said, you didn't have to be so aggressive. And then she said, well, you weren't exactly cooperating with me. And I said, well, what did you expect? I was just in a car accident. She was all mad. She spouted off out of the room like, whatever. And then I like looked at my mom and my sister because they were sitting right there, and I was like, what the fuck? And it was so funny because, listen, I don't curse in front of my family. I don't know. I've just never like been super comfortable with that. I curse around like my best friends, and even on the internet I have before, because I'm like, well, you guys are my besties, and if that's how I talk to my best friends, then like, but at some point within this past year, I have reevaluated that, and I'm like, I don't know that I want to put that on the internet, so I don't do that anymore. But again, for the sake of my story, I'm saying it. After that, I said, she's such a, and I'm not saying this word on the internet, but it rhymes with punt, as in punt a football. So I said, what the fuck? She's a punt. And my sister and my mom, they just busted out laughing, and they were like, Kelsey, because they had never heard me curse. Again, I don't know, I'm just kind of like private like that. They were laughing so hard, and I'm telling you this story. You're like, Kelsey, why is this like relevant? I'm telling you this story because I realized, looking back on that day, the only thing that I cared about was surviving. I'm a very emotional person, but I'm not one to like cry in front of people. I was crying a lot that day. I cursed, and when I don't do that. I even like remember that day they were putting a bunch of little like sticky pads on my chest, and you would think like, oh my god, I don't want like my mom to like see my boobs or like something like that. Like again, I'm very like private, but none of these things that would typically crossed my mind. And that's so strange because like when your goal is surviving, I was not thinking about, oh my god, like what do I look like? I have pictures of me and like I had cried off all my makeup and generally look like a clown. Like it streaks down my face, and I wasn't even thinking about it. I didn't even question it. Didn't care what I looked like, what I said, what people thought of me. Any little thing that typically I would have gotten anxious about like previous to my crash, like gone. I don't know, I guess when your like life is on the line, or again, you just have some traumatic experience, none of that matters. Not only does it not matter in a traumatic experience, but it doesn't matter in general. I was just thinking about literally tomorrow, I could be in the car, have the same thing happen, and maybe I wouldn't make it this time. You know, maybe I wouldn't be here, and would I want to spend my moments worrying about, oh my god, I said this and like they probably think I'm stupid. Oh my god, like I have like a pimple right here and like people are gonna notice. Like just it's so small. It's so small, and I don't think like, again, if you like freak out and you get anxious about that type of stuff, like I totally get it and it's totally valid. I've been there and I understand how all of these little things like just like eat at you and you're like, oh my god, like people are gonna notice, or I can't say this, or I can't do that. But after an experience like that, I realized how small those things really are. Nothing mattered back then because I only cared about surviving. And I feel like I'm at the place now where I want to shift that survival into, I don't want to care about anything but living. Because that's what we're here for. Then like, I don't know, and it's easier said than done. I definitely have days, like as an example, I was at a vet the other day and people were cleaning up and they were picking up these chairs and putting them back where they belonged, and I stood there because one of my disabilities is I have a back injury, and so I could not participate in helping up, but like the whole time I was thinking, oh my god, they must think I'm so lazy. Like I just really pride myself on being a hard worker, and I was so insecure about like what they were thinking. Or another disability that I have is I have tremors due to my movement disorder, so sometimes I sit in a wheelchair, but then sometimes I can get up and grab something off the shelf in the store, and I've always been like, oh my god, people must think I look so weird sitting in a wheelchair, but then also getting out of it and being like back and forth and stuff like that. So does it still happen? Absolutely. But like I've just kind of realized even with that, I'm like, if people want to make assumptions about me, that's their problem. Am I gonna spend my life worrying about what someone's assuming or thinking about me? And I've learned too, if it's some insecurity I have or something like that, it might be worth explaining it to people that you really care about, your best friend or your partner or something like that, and say like, hey, here's why I'm not doing X, Y, or Z, or whatever it is. But is it worth getting so worked up about what a stranger is thinking? Like, no. And I know, again, I'm just talking and you're just listening, but having experienced not caring about anything but surviving, I don't know, I feel like I do a good job in my traumas trying to find a silver lining, or taking pain and turning it into gain, something beautiful. And I just wanted to share that with you because this was one of the things that I got out of it. When you're going through something tough, none of these things matter. These things that feel so big are actually so freaking small. And I'm just encouraging you to let go of those. I know it's so hard. In a way, it's kind of nice to have this story of me in the hospital just calling this lady a punt because I did not care about anything. It sounds so silly, but it was so out of my character. Nothing else mattered, just surviving. And it encourages you to go out of your comfort zone. I'm not saying call people names and do crazy stuff like that. I'm just saying that day I was extremely vulnerable in multiple different ways. And while doing so, I literally didn't care. I didn't mind the uncomfortable in that way. I didn't mind what people thought of me, what I looked like, how there was a pimple on my face, and one of the nurses asked, "Oh, did you hit your head on the dashboard?" And I said, "No, it's just a huge pimple." Like, I wasn't insecure about anything, because I wanted to survive, and now I want to live. So I don't know. I like that. Maybe in the comments below you can tell me a story or your way or your tip of how you can let go of caring about what people think, because giving that up is probably one of the most freeing things in the world. You can be who you really are. You might actually take opportunities that you wouldn't have before, talk to people. It just feels so good. And now that I've experienced that, I want you to experience it too. And again, we're only human. It's not this constant thing, but the more we can incorporate it, I feel like the happier we will be. So yeah, it just makes me happy. Thank you guys again so much for listening to just me talking. Connecting with you guys literally makes my heart soar, and I know that seems like exaggeration, but it's truly not. If you liked this video, please give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe, and come find me on TikTok because I'm posting content on there as well. So I will see you guys very shortly with a new video, and thank you so much for existing. Good